Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. I'm really excited for today's review and demo. This is one of the last Parallel Universe version 2 guitars. We've only got 2 more after these guys, but today it's the Magico Telecaster. The very strangely named thing that makes it hard for people to search for it online because the A has a little accent on it. So it's funny, when I was actually pre-ordering these things, it wouldn't show up. But I was just pre-ordering blues. They later fixed that. And I might be wondering, hey, why is this box already open? And why am I so excited to review this when I was not all that excited about this guitar at first? Well, first off, this was delivered like this, unfortunately. The bottom came out of the box. That's always my biggest fear when it comes to shipping guitars, and that's why I use so much tape. And the FedEx lady, she had me open it, make sure the contents were still in the package, somebody didn't steal it in transit or something. But when I opened this case, I don't know, guys. I think this one might actually outrank everything else we've already seen. Like, photos did this guitar absolutely zero justice. Get ready to open your pocketbook is what I'm saying. Let's go ahead and take a look inside this surf green case. The first look at the Magico Telecaster. It's so fancy. Like, I think Fender has done something very cool this time, because first off, take a look at this neck. I mean, it is insanely flamed. You get it flamed on the fretboard too, and I know that's in the spec sheets. However, Fender's stock photos do not do these necks justice. I mean, just take a look at this for a minute. That's awesome. And these inlays, they're still a Pearloid material, but they're like extra fancy and swirly, so it at least seems a little bit fancier than normal. They even did it on the side of the neck. Check that out, Pearloid binding. I didn't even see that on my little quick sneak peek. You know, it's still a plastic material, and I mean, that's what binding is anyways, so what does it matter if it's mother a toilet seat? But what I saw at first was they did it on the side of the guitar as well. So you don't necessarily see that top pinstriping binding. I mean, you can just barely see it, but it did not show up in Fender's photos at all. But they even match it in with the pickguard, so if you like mother a toilet seat, as it's called, yeah, these things are going to be for you. But it's just so beautiful. And they call this one a transparent Daphne Blue. Now, if you're wondering what all this black smudges and what, it's just the case shedding. I wish they could find a way to make the cases not shed. And then we get this weird sawed-off bridge, gold foil pickups, semi-hollow body. I'm really excited to tear this thing apart, you know, see how these things work. I mean, even the pickup rings are mother of toilet seat. I think I'm really happy with this. And these guys are $2,299.99. So they're not the most expensive in the new series, but they're not the least expensive either. They're just kind of right in the middle, but honestly, just based on my first impressions on that one, I seriously think they could have made these $24.99 as well. I think it just came down to they didn't necessarily get the right photos out there. But I kind of had a hard time choosing what finish I wanted to review and document. So I thought I would just buy both of them. We can see them here in person, unbox it. That way, if you wanted to see what the other color looks like in person, if you were interested in buying one of these, there would at least be a decent video, because I'm usually the first guy that can get the video out on these things. Okay, this one is the transparent surf green. I think so far I like the blue one better, and that was my first choice in the beginning. This one still looks good, don't get me wrong, but I think I like having a little bit of variety in the colors. Because your case is this alien green color, that's why I think having the blue guitar kind of works a little bit better. And personally, I think the blue color matches with the white binding a little bit better. Oh man, that would have been awesome if they would have done black mother a toilet seat inlays, pickguard, binding, and all that for the green one. I think then they might have had to done a slightly darker color than transparent surf green. But this one's cool in its own right, but I think I'm going to continue this review with that blue one. However, I've got to say, the fretboard on this one, it's more of a quilt than a flame. It's kind of like one of those in-betweeners. That's interesting. So you let me know down in the comment section, which one do you like better? I think what this green one's got going for it is it has a lot more wood grain, whereas this one, it's a little bit more plain. It's got some rings. Man, now that I have them side by side, I think I might like the green one better. Decisions. I guess you'll know which one I chose to review after you see it here on the workbench. Let's go. It's the upset of the century. I didn't think I was going to prefer green, but I chose to do the teardown segment on this one simply because of the beautiful wood grain. We'll demo the blue one though, that way both of these get some equal share in this video. So I was actually surprised by a few things tearing this thing apart. So these pickup rings are completely optional. You could take those off if you wanted to, and then it'd just look like this. You'd get these ugly holes, but if you wanted to swap those out for something that wasn't quite as flashy, you could. Just send this to your favorite pickup ring maker and I'm sure they can duplicate you something. But the pickup itself, it secures by 2 screws right here, so the pickup ring has absolutely nothing to do with it at all. But the pickups themselves are actually exclusives to the Magico. And the neck pickup is blue, whereas the bridge pickup is red, so that's how they distinguish between the two. As far as pickup resistance readings, we get a 7.49 in the bridge and 6.31 in the neck. Then the combination of the two, 3.45. But underneath them, you just get a small foam block, that way they're not rocking around everywhere, and unfortunately they do cover up our barcodes, so we can't see those. But the body is minimally routed for these things. I mean, they are rather tiny pickups, nowhere near the size of a humbucker. They're even smaller than single coils, not quite as deep. I would say the closest things that these things remind me of are like the Jazzmaster style pickups. But these are custom wound gold foil pickups, so I'm really interested to see how these single coils sound. But as far as the body, this is Swamp Ash. And that's actually really special because Fender doesn't use ash bodies on regular run instruments anymore. They kind of cut down on the models that get that. So if you like ash bodies, you're going to like this thing. And it is a thin line Tele, meaning you have the F-hole and the whole thing's chambered out. I mean, you can see the cavities in here. It just continues on over there. So it's impressively lightweight. Now the pickguard itself, if you wanted to remove this gaudiness, it would just look like this. Honestly, I don't think you could get away with just leaving this off and playing it like this because it just looks a little bit too goofy, I think, with all the extra holes. But as we were talking about in the unboxing segment, you could replace this with a different material if you don't like the gaudiness. But the bridge itself, it uses compensated brass saddles, so that's nice, and it is a cut-off Tele bridge, secures using 4 screws, and it's only a string-through style. You do not have the option for it to be a top loader. As far as our controls, seems to be pretty basic with the knurled knobs, master volume, master tone, with a 3-way toggle switch. And it doesn't look like any type of fancy electronics in here, just some pretty basic stuff. But we'll take a quick look around the edge here so you can see that Pearloid binding material. It's kind of cool, but the more and more I look at this guitar, the more I'm feeling maybe it's a little bit too gaudy. If you ever see the word Moto used with Fenders, it stands for Mother of Toilet Seat, which is basically just a fancy name of this, and it comes from toilets used to look like this. Toilet seats, that is. But what I was kind of surprised about this is not a nitro finish. This is still a poly finish. And I think the reason why they chose that is A, to keep it cheaper, so this didn't have to be $24.99, and B, I don't know if you necessarily want this to age because it would look weird because the white won't age with the finish. So I think that was probably a smart move in the long run, but I think Fender might lose some sales by not doing the upgraded finish on these. But it's kind of a special guitar anyways, even if you buy it just for the pickups. But moving on to our neck. Take a look at this. We get 21 medium jumbo frets, and all of them have some sort of a flamed neck. That is a stock spec. These aren't magical examples that just happen to get flamed figuring and quilting and whatnot. That's actually a legitimate spec. They'll all have that. So you can order one online, and yes, they will vary from example to example, but you should get something semi-what nice. And I think that's where a lot of the price upcharge comes on this one. They had to source out really nice wood. But as far as the radius, it's quoted out at 12 inches, and we have the regular 25.5 inch scale length. And we've got a bone nut that measures 1.65 inches. Then at the 12th, 2.02. First fret neck depth, 0.87. And that increases to 0.92. So very consistent neck, but the specs are actually calling this, it starts as a V-shaped neck, which, yes, that actually is. That's interesting. But then it gradually loses that hump in the back of the neck and turns into a C neck profile. It's not like a hard V, but you can definitely feel that and see how it kind of rounds off right there. That is an interesting neck profile. It's kind of comfortable though, because it fills your hands for chords, but then when you want to do some more leading solo work, you don't have that hump, so you can anchor your thumb at the back of the neck. And the finish on the fretboard is the satin urethane. Same thing on the back of the neck, so you're going to slide on that really nicely. But they did go ahead and give the full gloss treatment to the headstock. Now, since this is such a fancy guitar, I kind of wish they would have glossed the neck as well, because you can see how the flame figuring, you can still see it, but it's not like quite as attacking in your face. Whereas once you go to the gloss finish, that's when it really comes to life. I think it's kind of a little bit of an injustice not to gloss this neck, but hey, that's our specs. You get truss rod access up here, your vintage style Godot tuners, which also have the mother of toilet seat up here. And it just says Fender, Corona, California, USA made. But something that, I'm kind of getting thrown off about this guitar with, now that I know that it's a poly finish, and you look at this from the side profile view, you get like that natural figuring within this Pearloid binding, right? But then this almost seems to match that. It just makes the whole neck feel plastic, especially when you see the inlays and the fretboard also looking like that. So it's certainly fancy, but at the same time, it makes the guitar look a little bit cheap, which is kind of strange to say. Because at first I was really digging this, but now I'm like, okay, maybe it's a little bit too far and gaudy for my own personal tastes. So maybe this one won't be for everyone after all. But it does make a great little wall hanger. It's super fancy looking. It's cool. So let's go ahead and switch over to the back now. It's a string through style, so we got our ferrules right there. Regular strap button in your normal locations, and I love the ash body wood grain on this one. Even the back, it's got lots of nice rings, a little bit of waviness here. This is such a fine example. I'm glad I ended up getting both. I mean, I really thought I wasn't going to like the green one, but seeing it in person, it kind of flipped me over from blue to green. I'd be curious if I got one that didn't have such nice wood grain, if I would still prefer it over the blue one. It's a bolt-on neck, regular style, no carve-aways or anything like that. And again, the back of the neck looks fantastic on this guy. Satin finish with a bunch of flame/quilt. And our serial number for this model is on the back side of the headstock. And these are actually Godot-made tuners, but it looks like they still say Fender on them. I'm guessing they had to go Godot to get these special Pearloid tips. Now, as far as QC goes, I didn't really see anything on the body of this one, but on this one, you can see there's like a little bit of orange staining right here. And you could write that off as, oh, that's just something in the wood, but I think I see some of it like on the edge of the nut right there too. So maybe that's like a polishing compound or something that got under the finish. It's not heavily noticeable, but it is there. But that's about all I could see on this particular one. And then moving on to the blue one, the only thing that I saw on this comes down to the F-hole. There's a small area right there that did not catch the finish, and as you play it, it definitely catches your eye. So that's just a very small thing that maybe QC could have caught and got that finished over a little bit better. But hey, at least you have some finish within the F-hole. It's not a huge deal. But something else I'm noticing that's different between the blue one and the green one, and it might not be for all of them, but take a look at this neck. Doesn't it appear more white, like they didn't tint the lacquer at all on this? And it almost doesn't have that plasticky looking neck when at the side profile view. So I think the green ones actually get a tinted neck. Side by side, you can kind of see what I'm talking about, how this one's just a little bit more yellow. And that just could be a variation within the wood that this particular one used. So it might not be for all of them, but it was something I noticed anyways. And it might explain that little yellow splotch, like maybe the tint got a little bit too dark in that area. But other than that, fantastically built guitars. As far as the weight, the blue one is 6 pounds, 4.8 ounces. Whereas our green one is a little bit heavier at 6.5 pounds. So let's go ahead, plug this in, and hear how it sounds. Okay, let's go ahead and run through the tones here. That was just the neck pickup. I've had quite a few people ask me to strum this thing unplugged because they're curious about Thinline teles. They're not quite as loud as like a semi-hollow guitar. I mean, there's not a huge difference between a regular tele, but here it goes anyways. So I might be able to serenade somebody closely, but as far as projecting it to an audience, no, that's not what this is for. So let's go ahead and hear the bridge pickup clean. Kind of spanky, but not quite as spanky as a regular Telecaster. But yeah, it's still distinctively Telecaster at the same time. Kind of interesting. Let's flip back over to that neck position. Now we'll switch over to that middle position. An interesting guitar. I'm not going to say I'm blown away by the sounds of these, but then again, I'm not really used to these gold foil pickups, so maybe I'm just not playing them to their strengths. But definitely nice and chimey and bright, but without being too bright at the same time. Find myself really liking that middle position. Cool, let's go ahead and check it out with some distortion. All in all, what are my final thoughts on the Magico Telecaster? It's a nice guitar, it's very fancy looking, but I'm not going to put it at the top of the heap of the Parallel Universe series. I think that still belongs to a couple of the other ones that we've mentioned in the other reviews and demos. However, it's not a bad guitar by any means. It's fantastic if you like this look. If you really enjoy the mother of toilet seat look, I think you're going to thoroughly enjoy this guitar. However, the more and more I play it, the more I'm not as in love with it just based on the looks. It looks a little bit too plasticky to me. Now imagine if there's like a custom shop version of this, which Ron Thorn actually helped design these guitars, so there is something that'll at least be somewhat similar out there. But instead of Moto, maybe we could have had real mother of pearl. Now that would be a completely different story on this thing and a completely different price point. So what this thing has got going for it is it's nice and spanky, very chimey cleans, and it dirties up well. Super lightweight. I mean, you don't even feel this thing on you. So if you're gigging with this, you're gonna enjoy it. It is fancy, but is it fancy to your tastes? Only you can tell yourself that. But the neck profile, it works for me. I don't really even notice the V shape too much. I mean, if you're looking for it, you can feel it. But as far as playability goes, it's comfortable to do chords, comfortable to do the solo-y stuff. So a good neck profile for that. So if you're interested in checking one of these out for yourself, you can order one through Sweetwater with my affiliate link, or you can find them on Fender's website or any other local dealer that you have. Thank you, Troglodytes, for tuning into this episode. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you tomorrow on the next episode. Take care.